Two car park stories today. In the UK, a hospital has banned EVs from one of its car parks. And here in New South Wales, Australia, the local fire department has provided a stinging assessment of the safety of EVs in car parks here. In the UK, draft regulations for EVs in covered car parks runs to nearly 100 pages. Link in the description to one of my earlier videos on that. And all you'll hear from the brainwashed evangelists when these genuine concerns are raised is, "Ooh, there are more petrol car fires than EV fires," as if that's the end of the argument. We'll hear some of those tired phrases as well, and we'll address them directly. And we'll also take a look at an Australian outfit called EV FireSafe, which has some frankly rather bizarre attitudes towards certain parts of social media, and are a little bit too cosy with the evangelists to be taken seriously. The truth, as always, is more complex than the EV proponents like to claim, and that's especially true in relation to car park safety. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney-based YouTuber. Be sure to follow me on the usual socials for more content, links in the description, and there's a code on the screen. Scan that with your phone if you want to sign up for an occasional MGUY email. It'd be great to have you on board. If you're at all following EV stories, you've probably seen this first story, which broke last week, as reported in the BBC. But we'll dig into this because it's a classic example of the evangelists sweeping problems under the carpet and calling it misinformation. Always the last resort of someone who's lost the argument. Electric car driver turned away from hospital car park. A father who was taking his child to Alder Hey Hospital in Liverpool says he was turned away from the car park because he was driving an electric vehicle, EV. Paul Freeman Powell said he was told to park next to nearby grass because his car could explode. The hospital says it has temporarily banned access to the car park while it improves its sprinkler system. As I pointed out in my earlier video, the upgrades required to covered car parks are significant. But industry figures have challenged the decision, pointing to research that indicates petrol cars are considerably more likely to catch fire than EVs. Yeah, true in fact, but we'll see why this is irrelevant shortly. Mr. Freeman Powell told the BBC he attempted to tell the security guard he spoke to that the hospital's policy did not make any sense. But he said in the end he complied because he did not want his 7-year-old son to miss an appointment he had waited nearly 5 years for. Apart from anything else, that is a tragic indictment of the National Health Service in the UK, when a kid who's 2 years old has to wait until he's 7 for a specialist appointment. Let's hope it wasn't anything urgent. In a statement issued to the BBC, Alder Hey Hospital said following advice from Merseyside Fire and Rescue, it had, quote, temporarily restricted the parking of electric vehicles in one of our smaller car parks while we upgrade its fire sprinkler system. Electric vehicles are still able to park in our main hospital car park, it continued, pointing out it also had 14 spaces with EV charging points. And here comes the evangelist bluster with the subheading, Misinformation. Mr. Freeman Powell shared a picture of a sign at the entrance to the car park which reads, "No electric vehicles" on X, formerly Twitter. Fair Charge, a campaign group for electric vehicles, described it as misinformation erroneously shaping public policy. Its founder, the motoring journalist Quentin Wilson, said, "For the NHS to restrict electric cars from coming into car parks dramatically conflicts with the clean air and health benefits from zero tailpipe emissions." Colin Walker, head of transport at the research group, the Energy and Climate Intelligence Unit, agreed that the evidence did not support the hospital's position. Data from EV FireSafe, which is backed by the Australian government, indicates that petrol cars are over 80 times more likely to set on fire than EVs, he told the BBC. Okay, let's bust this argument wide open right away. Firstly, it's not the number of fires that matters, it's the intensity and severity. When do you ever hear about car fires in the media? Rarely, because they're relatively straightforward to extinguish using regular firefighting equipment. This is in stark contrast to lithium-ion battery fires, which A, burn at 2,500 degrees Celsius or 4,000 degrees Fahrenheit, compared to 800 or 900 degrees for a regular fire. B, cannot be extinguished by smothering to remove oxygen like a regular fire, because the oxidizer is in the battery itself. C, can eject flamethrower-like jets of flames due to high-pressure outgassing from the cells. D, contaminate any water used to fight the fire, requiring it to be contained and treated before being disposed of. And, as a cherry on this shit cake, E, can reignite without warning days, weeks, or even months after the initial fire. The intensity and temperatures of lithium-ion battery fires can weaken and even destroy structural elements of buildings, including car parks. So while fires might be less frequent, their effects can be catastrophic. Secondly, and I've been trying to find some data on this, so if you can help me out, drop a comment or send an email. But despite gas-powered cars being statistically more likely to catch fire, I would bet that most of those fires take place during driving, when the engine is hot, when fuel leaks can ignite, the fuel pump is running, etc. It would be extremely unlikely for a gas car to spontaneously combust for no reason when parked. That is not something you can say about EVs. A cell in the battery can start a thermal runaway at any point, possibly even more likely after the car is parked following a drive because of the additional heat in the battery. We'll come back to EV FireSafe in a minute. And coincidentally, here in New South Wales, the Fire and Rescue Service has come down hard on EV parking in large buildings. Fire Department wants restrictions on EV parking and charging in big buildings. The New South Wales Fire and Rescue Office has intervened in a crucial debate about Australian building standards, saying that it does not approve of electric vehicles being charged or even parked in enclosed parking areas in buildings. In a position paper on the new National Building Standards released last week, the FRNSW says EV parking and charging, as a minimum, should occur only in the open air, and if it needs to be internal, it should be close to exits and not close to lifts, doors, or other critical infrastructure. It recommends that any internal EV parking and charging be protected by only the very latest automatic fire sprinkler systems, fire hydrants, and enhanced smoke detection, and provided with automatic or remote emergency charging stations. The department says its position is effectively an endorsement of the position taken previously by the Australasian Fire and Emergency Services Council, and it says that while it recognises that EV fires are very rare or low frequency, they have potentially high consequences. The potential consequence of an EV fire may result in rapid, unconfined fire spread through the car park and or building, causing large property losses and likely threat to life safety, it writes. FRNSW does not recommend EV parking and or charging to any building not protected by an AS2118 fire sprinkler system, including a building protected by an FPAA 101D or FPAA 101H fire sprinkler system, which have lesser performance, it writes. It says these lower performance sprinkler systems, the two FPA standards, are not appropriate for an EV with a lithium-ion battery in a state of thermal runaway. Any request for consultation or referral to FRNSW relating to any new building that intends to incorporate EV parking and or charging should adequately identify the hazards and risks and demonstrate how they are being addressed within the design. And here we go again, we get the same tired and irrelevant argument from the Evangelists. Fred Tuckwell, the chair of the Owners Corporation Network and a member of the EV Ready Buildings Expert Reference Group, said he supported the EVC position. The facts are that electric vehicles are 10 to 20 times less likely to catch fire compared with petrol and diesel powered vehicles, and no one is asking for changes to the way they are garaged or fueled. Oh, give me strength. Same response as before. And while we're on the subject of Evangelists, let me show you a page from the EV FireSafe website. And this is not a joke, by the way. Archived page is linked below. Quoting our research, here's how you credit us. Consent is given to republish information contained within this website, subject to credit being given as source evfiresafe.com, with a hyperlink back to this website, noting that by republishing information, you are deemed to have acknowledged and accepted the legal statement below. Here we go. Consent is not given to social media influencers, right-wing organizations, or anyone interested in taking our work out of context for the purpose of pushing an anti-EV agenda or making money from clickbait. Our research aims to support a safer transition to decarbonised transport for everyone, but particularly emergency responders. Do not make the mistake of thinking we are anti-EV. Right, well, I'll leave it up to you to let me know in the comments what you think that kind of language and attitude does for the organisation's credibility. Perhaps they think that New South Wales Fire and Rescue is, quotes, pushing an anti-EV agenda, unquote, with their position paper. Who knows? Anyway, there will be plenty more on car parks in the future on this channel, as the problem ain't going away. I'm waiting for a copy of that position paper so we can look at it in more detail. But to those who think that raising genuine concerns about lithium-ion battery fires in enclosed spaces is nothing more than right-wing anti-EV clickbait, then it's more a reflection on the organisations making those kind of statements than it is on those of us it's supposedly aimed at.